Welcome back to ET with GOTB. In this week's special episode, we are talking to football royalty. Bow down. I'm Rachel, and this is Extra Time with Girls on the Ball. Okay, you might be wondering why I am flying solo today, and I'm not going to lie, Carla Ward's announcement as Republic of Ireland manager threw a little bit of a spanner in the works when it came to planning. So it means I am back in Ireland. It means I'm doing this extra special podcast episode on my own, purely for ease. It's late. It's been a long day, but I wanted to make sure that you guys got to hear from the inductees at the recent Barclays Hall of Fame. Now, we did give you a little bit of a sneak peek when Rebecca Welch was included in our most recent Extra Time with Girls on the Ball episode. I hope you enjoyed that. Loved hearing from her, loved getting the referee's perspective, and really loved having a referee included in the Barclays Hall of Fame. Hopefully she will not be the last. But today you will hear from the other three inductees, Alex Scott, Steph, Houghton and Gilly Flaherty. Safe to say each of these players have made their own mark on the game. And we're going to start with recent retiree and former England and Manchester City captain, Steph Houghton. Now, of course, Steph won 15 trophies during her time at Arsenal and Manchester City. That included 3 league titles, 5 FA Cups and 7 Women's League Cups. Former England captain, 121 caps, thank you very much. Came in during a really transformative period in the women's game. She was such a good leader. She had such an impact during that time as well. Won a bronze medal at the World Cup and also played for Team GB at the 2012 Olympics. Couldn't stop scoring at that tournament, actually. The game against Brazil at Wembley is, of course, the spark that ignited GOTB. It was the first game that we went to. You've probably heard us say this before on a number of different media and forum, but it was the game that sparked it for us. We got really excited. We got home. We wanted to know more. We got shirts signed at the game, and it made us want to find out more about women's football. And that was Steph is the one that stands out. It's the roar after she scored that goal against Brazil that really stands out in the memory for us. So it was quite cool to get to chat to her. She's, of course, moved into punditry now and is a regular on BBC and Sky Sports. But we spoke to her at the recent Barclays Hall of Fame event, and here's a little bit of what she had to say.
I think to be inducted into the Barclays WSL Hall of Fame, it's especially alongside the calibre of players or people that have had a massive influence on this league. It's right there, up there with the best achievements in my career, so really honoured and privileged.
Can you imagine, or could you imagine, the women's game getting to where it is, you getting inducted when you're just starting out your career?
No, not a chance. I think these last 10 years especially have been super special for everybody. I think the journey that we've all been on, people that have had a really big influence on how we've made changes in the standards. But I can always remember being at this very first launch of this league, and the intention was always to make it the best in the world. And now we stand here, and rightly so, it is the best league in the world. We have the best players coming, and to have been a big part of that for the last 10 to 12 years has been, it's been competitive, and I've really enjoyed it.
Is there one moment in your career that kind of stands out, or that you often find yourself reliving?
I think Olympics is one. I think in terms of probably the bigger picture and the fact that you got to play for Team GB, but the success that we had there, I think it was a real pivotal moment for women's football. I think people really stood up and noticed what we were doing as a team, and to have people at Wembley Stadium and fill that out was a big turning point for everybody in the game. But I think England captaincy is probably the biggest thing for me. I think to play for England is the best honour you can receive, but to lead the team out for that long over that many games and that many tournaments, I still pinch myself now when I speak about it, but it has to be up there.
A lot of things, I think, for you to maybe pick out in your career.
Yeah, it's hard to narrow it down, which I know that I'm really fortunate for, and there's a lot of people I need to thank for that as well.
If you were, knowing what you know now, if you were to tell young Steph just getting into football one thing, what would it be?
I wouldn't change too much. Maybe I think about outside influences. I think that's the biggest thing for me. I probably listened to a lot of the outside noise, not necessarily when I was really young, but when maybe we were starting to turn a bit professional. And I feel as though maybe that affected some parts of my game. I think I was very resilient and I wanted to be competitive and I wanted to work hard, but I think sometimes I got a tiny little bit distracted. So if I was a little bit younger and I was starting again, I'd be like, just stay in your zone, stay focused on you, and you know what to do to make it to the top.
When I think of standout memories for Steph, I mean, as I said, she's been such a trailblazer for the Lionesses, but I will never be able to think beyond that Team GB Brazil Olympic match, and her scoring all those goals. I think she scored like at least 3 goals in that tournament. She kept scoring in the game and the games. And I think because we associate that with Girls on the Ball, that will be like my forever memory of Steph. So it is quite nice, because I kind of wonder sometimes if Team GB hadn't happened, if that kind of moment at Wembley and the crowd and all of that buzz hadn't have happened, would we be where we are today? And I'm not sure we would. So thank you, Steph. Next up in the Barclays Hall of Fame is Gilly Flaherty. She won 22 trophies during her time at Arsenal and Chelsea, including 4 WSL titles, 7 FA Cups, 1 FA League Cup, 2 Community Shields, and 1 UEFA Women's Champions League. She had 9 appearances for England too, and at one point held the record for WSL appearances. And of course, I think her least favourite accolade was that she scored the very first WSL goal ever. And it was like super quick as well. It was under a minute. And I think she doesn't actually really like being remembered for that, because she doesn't actually think it's that big a deal. But I think it's a pretty cool thing to have to your name. She, of course, finished her career at West Ham, where she made the FA Cup final, a memory that she really cherishes and mentioned when she spoke to us. Now, just to flag, she was the last person we spoke to on the night, and we were running out of time. Lights are being taken out, doors are being closed, people were getting ready for the subsequent talk that happened. So we didn't have as much time, unfortunately, with Gilly as we would have liked, but she was lovely to chat to, and this is what she had to say.
Congratulations. If you think back to when you first started out your career, A, could you imagine the women's game being where it is? And B, you being inducted into the Hall of Fame?
Definitely not this. I definitely didn't imagine me getting into the Hall of Fame. I always believed that I think the women's game was going to be where it is now. I always had that hope, and I think when you first start out, you just want to play football, but then I think as you get older, you realise just the potential of it and the excitement really as well, that there's a lot of players that could be full-time pro and be able to live that life. But yeah, me being in the Hall of Fame, I didn't imagine that to happen.
Can you think of one moment, or maybe a moment that you think of most or reminisce on the most in your career?
I think a lot of people expect me to say the first WSL goal, but it actually isn't. I think when I think about my career, I think one of the first things I think about is walking out at Wembley with West Ham. I think because it was the FA Cup, but it was also the story of that is the underdog. And I think I was captain, and I just remember my hair stood up, and it was just an unbelievable feeling this. If I could go and relive that again tomorrow, I 100% would.
So as I said, that first goal that she scored in the WSL, she told, she has told in the past the story of that goal, and how she kind of just found herself at the back post and put the ball in the back of the net, and that her parents were down the other end of the pitch and hadn't even realised that she was the one who scored, thought it was Ellen White. So her parents were there and didn't even recognise the fact that she had scored the first WSL goal, which I thought was quite funny. Right, next up in the Barclays WSL Hall of Fame is, of course, Alex Scott. Won 21 trophies with Arsenal during 12 years at the club, including 4 Women's League Cups, 7 Women's FA Cups, 1 WSL League title, 1 UEFA Women's Champions League. And I think the thing that stands out most for Alex is the fact that she scored the goal in that UEFA Women's Champions League final for Arsenal to win it. And I think that is something that will always be associated with Alex Scott. She also played in the United States with Boston Breakers, and she played at Birmingham City, 140 caps for England, and a bronze medal at the FIFA 2015 World Cup. She also played for Team GB at the 2012 Olympics, and has, of course, moved into broadcasting and media, joining the broadcasting team, including at Football Focus, Match of the Day and Final Score, while also joining Sky Sports for both domestic and international fixtures. She is breaking many a glass ceiling and has been paving the way in the broadcasting space as well. So yeah, she's been not just known for her on-field activity, but everything she's been doing off it as well. And we spoke to her as well on Monday night, and here is what she had to say to us.
It's a very proud moment. I don't feel like it's sunk in just yet, but I don't know. For me, it brings it all back to my football career. I think a lot of people have just seen what I've managed to achieve in broadcasting, which is incredible and amazing. But the reason why I'm doing this is because what I have managed to achieve in my footballing career. So it just brings it all back to that for me.
When you think back to when you started, could you have imagined the game getting to this place, and B, you being where you are right now?
Do you know what? I think going back to that young Alex playing in a football page, it was always the dream that one day women's football would be on the biggest platform and be playing at Wembley. I played Wembley Fives in that football cage, and if I scored a goal, it was me scoring a goal at Wembley. But I don't know. I think the dream was there. But did I imagine that it would happen so quick, and the trajectory that it's been on over the last couple of years? Maybe not. But I'm always like, we are here and it's great and we're celebrating it, but we ain't done yet. There's still so much more we've got to fight for, opening doors for others to come through. And I think the parity across the league is something we still need to look at. So I feel like, yes, some days it's heavy, but we all need to keep going, because as much as we need to celebrate, we've got more work to do.
Absolutely. If you can think of one moment in your career that maybe you think back on or think most frequently about, what would it be?
The FA Cup final for me. Finally lifting that trophy in my Arsenal colours was a moment. I'd played there for England, I'd played there for Team GB, and I thought that I'd get to the end of my career and miss that moment with my club. So I think, lifting that trophy, walking those Wembley stairs, I cried like a baby, and I think in that moment I knew that, you know what, I finally feel done. I finally feel that I can move on to my next chapter, and I feel like I've managed to achieve everything that I could.
Love that. If you were to tell young Alex one thing, knowing everything you know now about the game, one thing as she was getting into the game, what would it be?
Believe in yourself. Don't wait for other people's opinions or how they look on you. I think the belief that you had in yourself, and if you do stay focused and you follow your dream, you can really achieve that. But I think I spent too long trying to seek other people's approval before I actually truly believed in myself. And I think when that penny dropped was then when you saw a confident Alex Scott on the football pitch.
So yeah, I think, as I said, that memory, that standout moment, I think, in Alex's career, scoring in the Champions League final, being the only English women's team to win Champions League. I know it was not called that at the time, but that I'm sure is what she'll be remembered for. And funnily enough, something that Gilly Flaherty flagged with us when we were chatting to her before we started interviewing her was that we used to sponsor her, and we used to sponsor Alex as well during the course of both of their careers, which was pretty cool, and just kind of makes you realize how far the game has come in those few years that we've been doing this. 12, 13 years we've been doing this. We actually used to be able to sponsor players for a season, which was pretty cool. But it was a cool night, really enjoyed it, great to see so many there. And as I said, great to have Rebecca Welch involved as well. If you missed that interview with her, it was on our previous episode of Extra Time with Girls on the Ball. So do go back and check it out, because she was very nice to talk to. And it was great to hear from a referee and great to have her included in it as well. It was a nice little trip down memory lane. These three players especially, we've been watching for such a long time. I've seen them play at multiple clubs as well. So it was great to kind of chat to them about their careers and their standout moments, and I guess where they couldn't imagine, I guess, where the women's game would be at this point when you look back, maybe when they were kind of starting out in the game, and how different it is now for players. So I hope you enjoyed hearing from them. We will be back early next week with our usual roundup. The WSL is back, so no doubt there will be plenty to catch up on. We are going to try and get to 4 games between us this weekend, so fingers crossed we manage that. But until then, we will speak to you very soon.